Welcome in, Frostburg State fans, to Week 9 of the Frostburg Sports Awards for the spring season. And we have Bryce Jackson, our male athlete of the week from baseball, as they swept their weekend series against West Virginia Wesleyan and Davis and Elkins. Bryce, just want to get some of your thoughts on your personal performance and the team's performance overall for those 4 games.
Well, as a team, I think we did really good. We were coming into the weekend expecting to win 4 games, but we can't assume that we're going to win, because when you do that, then you start playing not so good. So, so I think we stayed within our approach at the plate offensively. Our pitchers pitched and did what they had to do to the hitters, and we came out with 4 wins.
In the first game, back at Bob Wells Field for the first time this year, and having the home crowd there, what was that? How was that to you guys, and having the parents and the fans there? They've traveled pretty well down to Carolina and all those road trips you have, but to have the home comforts, how was that for you guys?
Oh, it's nice, especially on Friday. Friday was beautiful out. It was such a nice day for Frostburg. It was like, I think it was in the 60s or 70s, and it was sunny, so it was a perfect day for baseball. And we were also excited to be back home playing on the home field in front of everybody. Although the way our parents and fans travel, every game can almost feel like a home game.
Yeah, that Friday was certainly nice and sunny, and then Sunday was the amalgamation of Frostburg, where it was cold and rainy and not at all baseball weather. But back to game 1 against West Virginia Wesleyan, you guys put up an 8 spot in the first inning of the first game there, and you had a big 3-run home run to get things started. Was that sort of a spark plug for the rest of the team, and seeing you get that big hit, the first couple guys got on base, drive them in, and then you guys just kind of kept going with it through that inning?
Yeah, so their starting pitcher didn't really have it to start in the bottom of the first, or was it the first or second? I don't remember. My recall isn't that good. But so I think Danny walked on 4 pitches, and then I think Trevor got to a full count walk. Is that what happened? So I knew I was being very selective in my first at bat that day, and I think I got to a full count as well. It was a 2-strike count, I'm pretty sure, and I saw him grip to a changeup, so I just had to sit back on it. And when you put a good swing on a baseball, good things happen. And then I think that just sparked our offense to keep going, and that's kind of how our offense has been all year. We just need a little bit of a spark, and our offense will get real dangerous.
Later in that game, you got a 2 RBI single for 5 RBI on the day, which is a season high for you for this season, and had a 4 RBI game earlier this year. Then in the second game, it was a little bit of a different story, where Wesleyan came out and they were a little bit better pitching-wise up until, I believe, the 5th inning, and you guys put up 4 runs to kind of get ahead. But, in that close game, you think that was a little bit of a benefit for you guys, where you're not blowing out the team every single time, but to have just a little bit of feeling of that competition there?
Yeah, funny thing is after the game, I was talking to Coach Williams. I said, I know that we were down 2-0, but there was not a single doubt in my mind at any point in that game that we were going to lose that we were going to win that game. Like, I knew from the start we were going to win that game. It's just something about our team and our offense, and I know our staff is way better this year, and our offense is way better this year. So I knew that we just needed time to get rolling, and once we got rolling, the game was ours.
Against Davis and Elkins, then you guys put up 32 total runs across the 2 games, and really kind of beat up on their pitching staff, where again they some of them just didn't have it that day. But another couple of home runs in each game for you in that doubleheader, and then in the second game you all kind of got a little bit of a rest. The starters came out and let some of the bench guys get their pinch hits and play out in the field. Was that part of some of your thinking at all, of like, if we get enough, then we can kind of get a break and sit back, relax a little bit, and focus on the next weekend? Or you're just automatically always thinking that you want to go up there and do what you can?
I mean, it's fun to pad your stats against a not so good opponent, but at the same time, we also have guys that are trying to earn spots off the bench. Like, Coach Williams is trying to figure out who his first guys off the bench are going to be, and who's going to fill spots when we need them, because we might need these guys to come in and get a big pinch hit for us later down the road. Like, we might be in Beckley, West Virginia in the championship, and we need someone to come off the bench and get a huge knock for us, drive in a couple runs or get something started. So I think that's what's going on with that. It's not necessarily just giving us a break. It's also letting guys get the time that they've earned in practice over the weeks and earn their spots as well.
You spoke about some of the depth and the improvement of the pitching staff this year and how that's helped you guys. Where last year, sometimes you'd score enough runs, but the other team would put up just as many or even a couple more, and that would be contributing to some losses. But another part of the depth for this year is the lineup itself. And last year, obviously, a lot of the focus was on you and Ryan Roll and Drew Smith, who's back this year as well. But this year, you look 1 through 9, and even some of the bench guys, and anyone can have on their day. You look at Jack Moruskin, he's a starter, so he's not going to be able to at-bat every single game, and he leads the team in average. Chase Odell didn't even get a start this weekend, and he's one of the top guys in the conference in terms of batting average and slugging. And then we got you, who leads the conference in home runs and slugging percentage right now, and Trevor Jones is coming as a transfer, Ethan Keipel a transfer, and Danny Estrada, who had a really big weekend as a transfer, Jack Lawrence, who hit 2 grand slams in a weekend in one game one time. So, it's just some of the guys that you list off, and like you mentioned, coming off the bench, but, you mentioned a competition for places, but this lineup is very powerful, and you guys all have the confidence and belief that you can go out there and put up 19 runs on a team any single given weekend.
I know we lost Ryan Roll, but I like to say that Keipel has Roll's power and Trevor has Roll's hands, so we kind of took Roll and split him into 2 hitters right there. And the depth that we have this year is crazy. I don't even know if we've rolled the same lineup out yet this year. I know Coach Williams is looking to find the best lineup and what to do with find the right balance between offense and defense. And we got guys that can sub in defensively later in the games if we start off with an offensive heavy lineup, or vice versa. We start off with a defensive heavy lineup, and if it's a close game, then we have guys that we can sub in offensively that can still go out and fill their spots in the field. So it's pretty exciting knowing that we have all these different guys that can fill so many different roles, and we can trust every single person that's getting written on a lineup card to get a job done.
Looking ahead to this weekend, you guys play against Charleston and West Virginia State, who last year both shared the South Division title, had the 2 best records in the conference. Certainly, if you look from the outside, you look at some of the teams we've played where they don't have the best records. Obviously, the one weekend playing against Franklin, Pierce, and Westchester, a couple of ranked teams that time, you see that. But looking at these teams' records now, people would say, well, it's a step up for you guys, and it's going to be more of a challenge. But it seems certainly, by the way that you've talked and being around the team, that you guys have sort of a renewed confidence this year that may have been lacking last year, and a togetherness where, obviously you guys have sort of the hashtag gel, on social media and all that, where you have come together and you now believe that you can take down these quote unquote top dogs in the conference and, prepare to beat them. Is that sort of your thinking going into the weekend?
Yeah, I think there's a shared understanding among us that we haven't been beaten yet this year. All 3 of our losses, we beat ourselves. And so 2 of our games this year were against nationally ranked opponents, and we think that we should have not easily, but we definitely could have beaten Westchester. We beat Franklin and Pierce with 7 errors. Our bats were insane that game. And so I think that we respect Charleston and West Virginia State for who they are, but I know that we're confident that we can beat them if we play our game.
Well, Bryce, thank you for coming on today. Obviously, you've got your games coming now and practices. We're thankfully on spring break, so no classes, but we appreciate your time here. Congratulations on your weekend. Hopefully you can keep things up and continue to lead the conference in some of these categories. But thank you once again for being here.
Thank you.
All right, well, next up we have our female athlete of the week, Bree Powell from softball, who had another couple of home runs, so we're keeping things on the base pass. Be sure to stay tuned for that one. Welcome back on week 9 of the Frostburg Sports Awards, and I'm here with Bree Powell from softball, who's our female athlete of the week after the team picked up 4 wins this weekend. They're now at 6 straight wins overall as well. Bree, I just want to get some of your thoughts on your performance and the team's performance overall.
So I think overall this weekend we played probably the best that we've played so far, and I think we're just going to keep building from there. And I'm really excited to see what the season has for us.
For you personally, you hit 3 home runs total across the 4 games, and I went and did a little bit of research and realized that is the more than you've hit in your entire Frostburg career up until that point. It happened just across 3 games essentially. And we talked to your head coach, Bill Vasco, earlier this year about, this team isn't necessarily built around power. Obviously, Jayla Hill kind of gets some of the headlines with her power and the home run she hit. But, that's now you've added an element to this team where, if teams can realize that you have some of that power, they might, play you a little bit differently. But, where has this sort of come from with your ability to hit these home runs?
I think, well, last year whenever we played a lot, I had probably like 20-some hit by pitches. And I am a good hitter, and I think that last year I didn't really get the opportunity to show what I can do as a hitter. And this year, I think mentally I've grown and physically, and I've just been putting in a lot more work, staying after practice, and I think that really adds to what I've shown in the games. And I feel like a lot of my mental abilities, bringing it to the plate, just helped me to gain the strength to be a better hitter.
In the first game of the weekend on Friday against Davis and Elkins, it was D&E that got out to an early lead, and you guys had to kind of fight back. And those last two innings where you're down by a couple runs and you come back in the 6th and 7th inning to go and win it. And, for the team as a whole, it was them coming back, and you hit finally the 3-run home run to kind of put the cherry on top of that in the 9-4 win. But, for you guys, you look at the schedule, and Davis and Elkins doesn't have a very good record, and teams are thinking, well, this is a bad team. Why are we losing to them? But, in any given day, in any given game, it's different on who you play. But for you guys to get that fight back, what does that mean for that team in that moment?
I think that the whole entire game, we started off a little rough. Like, our energy was there the whole entire time, but just from the start, we didn't hit as much, and I think each of us adjusted at the plate, and we just got better throughout the game. And taking that, it just shows that we can fight, and we all want to win. I just feel like coming back from that game, it just shows, like, okay, Frostburg softball is something, and we can be better,
In the Sunday games then against West Virginia Wesleyan, in the first game it was getting out to an early lead, and you got the big 3-run home run to start off in that first inning. But Wesleyan sort of came back in that game and went all the way 9 innings. Just from a perspective as a player, what was it like to play such a long game where usually you're up to 7 innings and that's kind of it, or the 5-inning mercy rule. But to go that long, how was it? Stamina wise, were you guys feeling any kind of tired? Are you motivated given that it's such a good game to be in?
Honestly, personally, I don't think that I felt tired at all in that game. I just feel like my adrenaline was up the whole entire game. I didn't feel pressured, but it was just, that's the reason that I like to play, that feeling that you get in those situations.
In that 9th inning, it was Kennedy Batchelor that came up with the big pop fly to get the sacrifice and score the run. Kennedy and Ava Ganibas are both seniors on this team, where they're the only two. Last year, obviously, there's a lot of leadership that was there in the 5 seniors, and now 2 of them are back helping you guys in a coaching capacity. But, you look at this team, and you're the only junior. There's 2 seniors, but from where that leadership come from, and it goes to show that Kennedy in that moment, being a senior leader, is able to come up with that big hit. Is that sort of something that you felt that energized the team as well?
I just feel like whether it be a senior, whether it be a freshman, that someone needs to start somewhere, and we needed something in that moment, and Kennedy was able to give it to us, and it just showed, okay, well, someone can do something in this moment.
In game 2 then, it was sort of the same story, except Wesleyan didn't exactly have the same fight back. You guys got out to an early lead. Another 3-run home run for you in the first inning to get an early start. And then it was just about kind of finishing out, and the offense kind of struggled a little bit after the early parts, but was just enough there, and they couldn't exactly mount the comeback. And what caught my eye in that game was you look at game 1, and Sydney Theobald got the start, and Katie Chappell kind of came in and came on in relief, and relief closed out the game, allowed you guys to win that. In the second game, it was Katie that got the start, and then Sydney came on and was the one that closed things out, whereas, sort of the reverse of what you think of, where the starter usually does the work and the closer comes in. But this time it was really the closers that finished out the games. And, 2 talented pitchers, and you throw in Jamie Roberts, too, as a freshman, had a really good game against Virginia State, where, those 3, where, the oldest among them is Sydney, who's a sophomore. And we again, I can speak about the leadership where, not the most experienced players, but certainly ones that have the confidence and leadership in the big moments.
Yeah, I just think that it was weird that Sydney started off, and then Katie came in, and then the second game that Sydney started, then Katie started and Sydney came back in. It was different, but I think we just needed to change it up. Just a pitching change to change up the hitter's perspective, because they did start hitting, and whenever they did start hitting is whenever we put our next pitcher in.
You look ahead into this week and some of the coming weeks, it's going to be starting, the schedule is going to kind of be fully loaded, where you have now the midweek games along with the weekend games starting off this week, and a Wednesday game, hopefully, fingers crossed, against Salem. That'll happen, and then, 4 games over the weekend. Is that going to change your guys' preparation at all? Obviously, it changes some of the practice times that you guys will have, but in terms of focusing on, 1 game at a time, as opposed to looking ahead at the conference and kind of overlooking, in a way, the non-conference, but, how are you going to stay mentally focused throughout, a little bit of a, just a swamp of games in a sense?
I think we all, like even last year, we just looked to the next game. You can't look too far ahead. You always focus on the next game because you can't get to the game this weekend until you get past the first game. And mentally, I just feel like you just have to manage your time well. That's pretty much it.
All right, Bree, thank you for coming on today to come and talk to us. You've obviously got your practices and the heavy games coming up, but thankfully it's spring break, so no classes to worry about for the week. But we appreciate you being here, and congratulations once again on your weekend.
Thank you. Go Bobcats.
All right, next up we will have Anthony Williams from baseball, who's our Coach of the Week. He'll be wrapping up our awards, so thank you for watching. Wrapping up week 9 of the Frostburg Sports Awards is Anthony Williams from baseball, who is our Coach of the Week after baseball swept their 4 games this past weekend. Coach, I just want to get some of your overall thoughts from the team's performance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously happy sitting here 4-0 in conference play after the first weekend. We feel like we did what we felt like we could do this weekend, which was go out there and just pitch the way we can, play pretty solid defense, and we knew our offense is going to be capable of scoring runs, which they've been pretty consistent at all season, and we did that.
For both of these series, it was the first time they've been back at Bob Wells Field for this year, and last year was the ability to have fans back after 2020 and the COVID situation, but it still felt like a little bit of an improved atmosphere this year with even more people being back. No one has to wear masks outside now, and your fans have traveled pretty well on the road trips, but just to be back with the home comforts, how was that for your team?
Yeah, it's definitely always nice. The home opener, outside of opening day, the home opener is like the next thing you have on your schedule you're really looking forward to. And we certainly knew that it was going to be conference being our first home game. And March 19th and 20th in Frostburg could be a flip of the coin weather-wise. And I think I said the other day, I think Friday was probably the warmest home opener in Frostburg baseball history. I think it was like 70 and sunny. So, we'll certainly take it. The support of our parents coming back. We had our first pitch dinner scheduled for that Friday night, and I think a lot of them were back for that. We were happy to see everybody, and just glad we could go out and put on a good show for them.
Into the games, and the first game against West Virginia Wesleyan, an 8-run first inning, about the best start that you could ask for from your offense. Did that allow you guys to just kind of settle in a little bit and be like, all right, we've got our lead now, we can not rest on our laurels, but be a little bit more comfortable and not have to worry or stress about giving up an early lead or having to come back from anything, and that you're set and you kind of know where you're going to stand, and just a matter of finishing out the game from that point?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously Jack Moruskin's got plenty of run support this year in some of his starts, so I think we're continuing that trend. But in addition, one of the things we noticed is just Wesleyan, even though their record doesn't look great, they've scored early and often in a lot of games. They've and they did that to us in the second game. So we wanted to make sure we get off to a good start. Conference play comes out, and it's really throw the records out the window for the most part, at least initially. It's about just trying to slow things down, and it was nice to get a lead. Bryce Jackson, hits a 3-2 hanging changeup out for a 3-run homer, gives us some breathing room, and then we did a nice job at the plate of not expanding the zone against a pitcher that was a little inconsistent with his command. So we had a nice first inning. It did allow us to kind of settle in, let everybody breathe, and I think anybody would tell you, as a pitcher, if you get an 8-run lead, it's a little easier to go out there and throw. Unfortunately for Jack, he just didn't have his best command and stuff that particular day. Battled through it, got us some outs, and we let our bullpen come in and do its thing after that.
As a part of that inning, and one thing that I noticed that this team does a really good job of, it puts pressure on the defenses, and they do it by way of stealing bases and just putting the ball in play. And one thing that I noticed while we were there is that people will shout out from the dugout every time that a ball is put in play. Run it out, you never know. Someone might throw it away, or they might bobble it, and that happened quite a few times. I mean, Wesleyan made a few errors, and it was just about you guys, not striking out, putting the ball in play, making them make plays, and at times they didn't, and that allowed you guys to come in. And speaking back on the stolen bases, it seems like a big thing this year. 47 through 16 games. Last year was only 55 through 39, and that seems to be a good point with this team about, you look at the hitting and there's a lot of power, but there's also a lot of speed in this lineup.
Yeah, I remember having the preseason interview with you, and we talked about a little bit of power and speed combination with our offense, and that's what you're seeing out there. I do think, last year it could be more circumstantial. We were off to bad starts in a lot of games. You're chasing runs. It's a little bit more difficult to kind of run a lot. We've been playing in front a lot of games this year. It's allowed us to kind of open up the playbook offensively. But one of our offensive philosophies is applying pressure, as you said, and that's a big thing we talk about all the time. And applying pressure happens in a lot of different ways, and it can be with the long ball because we do have some guys that can do that. It can be on the bases with the speed, as you mentioned, and really it's just a mindset of being aggressive. And even situations like we hit a fly ball on Sunday against D&E. There was a routine fly ball between short and left that landed right on the line, and Ethan Keipel standing on second base when that ball landed. And that's just a mindset of getting out of the box, not taking anything for granted. And if the opponent makes a mistake, we're going to be there to capitalize on that.
And the second game was a closer game, 7-3, and Wesleyan, like you said, they can get out to some early leads. They got out to the 2-0 lead. We were able to come back and tie it at 2-2, but it was really quiet after that until the fifth inning. Danny Estrada, who had a really good weekend, was the MEC Player of the Week, hit a big home run to kind of spark plug the team, and he seems to be the guy that is kind of that spark plug, the leadoff guy in the lineup, and a guy that can steal bases. He just gets on base, and really just a tough guy to get out anywhere that he plays.
Yeah, a little bit of a rocky start, and really in both games against Wesleyan. Starting pitchers, whether it was nerves or just getting comfortable, just wasn't locked in, ready to go, and we gave up a couple early runs. A couple walks mixed in, and we're down 2-0 early. But before I get to Estrada, I do want to point out, Ben Weeman comes up and gets a big double in that game to cut it to 2-1. And that was a 2-out double off the wall. Made it 2-1. We didn't have any panic in our dugout, and then Ben coming up with that big hit there, just kind of like, all right, we're going to be okay. Just keep playing. We're down 2-0. Nobody's going to freak out, or we're just going to stick to our game plan. And then, we tied things up. Offense was a little slow to get going in that game, but then Danny comes through, puts us ahead with the home run, as you said, 3-2, and then we just kind of rolled from there. But yeah, Danny just kind of been patient, waiting for his opportunities early in the season, and every time he's been called upon, he's been there to produce for us, and he's a hard worker, and he's seeing some of that hard work pay off for him, and we're certainly glad. And out of the leadoff spot, he's getting on base. He's obviously got a little bit of power and speed, but he's having good at bats out of the leadoff spot. He's fouling pitches off, drawing walks, so it's he's doing it in a lot of different ways for us right now.
Into the games against Davis and Elkins, and two pretty comfortable wins, all things considered, 13-5 and 19-1, where really the offense took some of the highlights. But we'd be remiss not to mention the pitching staff, which did really well that day. Max Proctor in Game 1 pitched a solid outing. Ethan Keipel in Game 2, even though he had to wait a bit with the offense in a huge 14-run inning. But those guys kind of just laid the groundwork for the offense to do their thing, and they just kept it going on the mound and really kept it in. And the bullpens came in and did a pretty good job as well, where, again, we talked earlier this season in your season preview that pitching is going to be one of the most improved units in the conference. And I looked at some of the stats. That's the second best ERA in the MEC right now.
Yeah, and I want to back up 1 second and cap off that Wesleyan doubleheader with the performances of Nick Trey out of the bullpen, followed by Cale Heyer, and then also Will Grove coming in behind Hayden Ford in Game 2. Those guys did outstanding work coming in, throwing strikes, changing speeds, and really allowed our offense to kind of, and especially in that second game, Will gave our offense a chance to kind of battle back. Anytime we put Nick Trey out there, we know he's going to throw strikes, he's going to mix speeds, and he's going to give our defense opportunities to make plays. He's not a big strikeout guy. Same with Will Grove, so I think it's always fun playing defense when a guy's going to throw a lot of strikes and the ball's going to be in play. So those guys did outstanding work on Friday, and then to fast forward to what you said about Sunday. Yeah, Max, again, first inning, I think they got a couple of cheap runs, I will say. A little flare that drops in, after a walk and a pass ball, get a guy to second base, and then they go up on an early 2-0 lead. Similar to Friday in Game 2, no panic in our dugout. We know we just gotta, stick to the game plan. And Max has been pretty good for us, and he came out and did his thing after that the rest of the way, and got us through 5. Allowed our offense to put up some runs. We played pretty clean defense for the most part on the weekend. I know to start off Game 4, which would be the second game on Sunday, we had an error, but other than that, it was pretty clean. Keipel, his command wasn't his best, feel for his secondary pitches, but he battled and got us through 4, and then we were able to kind of piece it together with some young guys, some freshmen, and we went Ben Weeman, Dean Wandell, and Jake Stretch to close it out. All 3 guys just kind of getting their feet wet with conference experience. But yeah, to your point about our staff and our ERA, Coach Peterson has done an outstanding job working with our pitching staff. We have a lot of new arms this year, and I think the pitchers are all understanding of how we're going to operate is, hey, you may be starting the game on the mound, but it might be one time through the lineup, and then we're going to pass the baton off to the next guy. We're not going to let somebody hang out there for 7, 8, 9 runs because we don't really need to do that. We have lots of guys capable of doing the job, and as powerful as our offense is, and we're confident in what we can do at the plate. We know we aren't going to get to where we want to go if we don't pitch and play defense. So we've been doing that for the most part, especially on the mound, and certainly proud of the guys.
A lot of the guys that we've talked about today, and a lot of the young guys, and you talked about Ben Weeman, and Jake Stretch, and some of those younger guys, and Christian Scherzer, also have to mention him as well, who had a pretty good day at the plate, and then at shortstop he's been pretty good defensively this year, to say the least. And bringing in all these transfers, as mentioned, Danny Estrada as a mid-year transfer, Trevor Jones, and Ethan Keipel, and just some of the guys, and obviously can't mention exactly everyone, but there's so much new fresh blood into this team, and you bring back some of the guys from last year. We talk about Bryce Jackson and Jack Lawrence and some of those senior leaders, and you guys have used the term gel in some of your social media posts and coming together. How has that process come about in terms of getting everyone on the same page? There seems to be an aura of confidence and togetherness about this team for a team where almost half the team is new faces this year.
Yeah, so GEL for us is a play on words for our acronym for our program, which is grit, energy, and leadership, and that's what that stands for. But to get a team to gel together, we have to focus on those things. And it does take time when you have a lot of new players, as you said. But we had a vision for what we're trying to build as a team that can hopefully get to the conference tournament and win a championship, and we feel like we're on our way. But it's like anything else. You got to spend time working at it. So all the little things that happen, just going back to like the fall and doing stuff together as a team, we spend a lot of time in weekly meetings learning about our teammates, their backgrounds, their histories, and they get to share things about themselves. So all those little things add up to being able to play together, trust one another. Not everybody's going to be best friends on or off the field, but, as teammates, I think everybody respects everybody. They're all putting in the same amount of hard work in the weight room early in the morning and at practice and study halls late at night. So, we're all, as we read the book, Row the Boat over the winter from PJ Fleck, and everybody's got their oars in the water, and we're all rowing, and we're all in sync right now. So hopefully we can keep that moving.
You look ahead and keeping that moving this weekend. Charleston and West Virginia State, two of the top teams from last year that, certainly are looking to be another two top dogs in the conference this year. You go back to last year again and looking at those games, and again, the confidence that they're this year. You look at Davis and Elkins and West Virginia Wesleyan, two teams that we split with last year, took a game, lost a game. Now it's a sweep this year, and it looked pretty convincing. Talked to Bryce Jackson earlier about looking at this weekend and how last year has changed this year, where they have the confidence and they believe that they can do it and go out there and beat anyone. Is that sort of the same that you're thinking as a coaching staff as well?
Sure, but I think on the flip side, we can lose to anybody on our schedule. We can beat anybody on our schedule, but we can also lose, and that just means that we need to be able to stay focused and stay locked into our process day in, day out, week in, week out. Certainly have a quality opponent coming up this weekend, quality opponents this weekend. Both teams played in a regional last year. The MEC got two teams in the Atlantic region. Charleston and West Virginia State both tied for the best record in the league last year, and they both got in. West Virginia State won the tournament, and Charleston got in as an at-large. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to go against a team that is competing for a regional bid this year, has been, as you put it, top dogs in our league. It's going to be a challenge for us, and we're looking forward to that. So we know we're going to see some pretty good pitching on the mound, and our guys are going to use the next few days to prepare for that, and certainly a measuring stick as to where we're at. We're happy about the progress, as you said, looking from last year to now, but we really don't focus too much on last year because, as we already pointed out, it's like a whole new team for the most part. So we learned from things in the past to help us get better in the future, and that's what we've done. But now it's on to Charleston on Saturday, and then West Virginia State on Sunday, and our guys will be ready.
Well, Coach, thank you for coming on today to come and talk to us. Obviously, you've got your practices and games this week. Thankfully, you don't have to worry about your players and classes, at least for the week being, but we appreciate you being here. Congratulations on your weekend. Hopefully pick up some more wins this upcoming weekend and throughout the season as well.
Thanks for having me, Logan. Appreciate it.
All right, well, that wraps up this week of the Frostburg Sports Wars. Be sure to tune in next week when we'll have a new set of athletes and another coach. So, as always, go Bobcats.